Hi students, in my previous lecture on Indian Evidence Act, we had finished the entire topic of admissions and confessions, starting from section 17 to section 31. We now go on to two very important sections. These sections have been crafted because of the doctrine of necessity. You know, any judgment has to be based on the best evidence rule. बेस्ट से बेस्ट एविडेंस हमारे सामने आना चाहिए, तभी हम बेस्ट से बेस्ट जजमेंट दे सकते हैं। बाई चांस जो इंपॉर्टेंट हमारे पास एविडेंस है वो ऐसा आदमी है जो कि कोर्ट के सामने नहीं लाया जा सकता। सपोज वो मर चुका है, बहुत बूढ़ा हो गया है, या वो इतना इन्फर्म हो गया है, मैड हो गया है, जो भी रीजन है, और उसका एविडेंस बहुत जरूरी है। तो नाउ द क्वेश्चन अराइजेस, क्या अगर उसका पहले कोई स्टेटमेंट हो जो कहीं दिया गया हो, क्या हम उसको यूज कर सकते हैं अभी, जबकि वो आदमी अब कोर्ट में नहीं आ सकता? सो बेसिकली इट इज एन एक्सेप्शन टू द रूल of the fact that evidence can be given only by persons who present themselves in the court. Witnesses को कोर्ट में आना जरूरी है ताकि उनका क्रॉस एग्जामिनेशन हो सके। यहां पे क्योंकि विटनेस प्रेजेंट नहीं हो सकता है, तो अब उसका क्रॉस एग्जामिनेशन नहीं हो सकता। बट उनका एविडेंस इसलिए जरूरी है, उनका साक्ष्य इसलिए जरूरी है क्योंकि जजमेंट के लिए वो बहुत ही मटेरियल है। So we have to now invoke the principle of necessity. And now we can say that invoking the principle of necessity, statements made by such persons who cannot be produced before the court can be made admissible. Naturally question उठता है, कौन वो लोग हैं? पहला क्वेश्चन। दूसरा, कौन से मैटर्स में उनका एविडेंस यूज किया जा सकता है? और तीसरा, कौन से सर्कमस्टांसेस में? ये सारे हमें आंसर्स मिलते हैं दो सेक्शंस में, सेक्शंस 32 एंड 33, रेड विद सेक्शन 158। इसीलिए ये तीनों सेक्शंस एक्सट्रीमली इंपॉर्टेंट हैं क्योंकि ये क्वेश्चंस हमारे तीनों फोरम्स में आते हैं, मेंस में भी आते हैं, इंटरव्यू में भी आते हैं और प्रीलिम्स में भी आते हैं। इसके अंदर जो मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट है कि ये सेक्शंस कायदे से अगर देखा जाए तो नेचुरल जस्टिस के खिलाफ है। नेचुरल जस्टिस कहता है कि नो एविडेंस शुड बी टेकन विदाउट बीइंग क्रॉस एग्जामिन्ड। आपने कहा, मैंने मान लिया, ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है? पर ये कुछ हालात ऐसे हैं जहां पे हम उनके एविडेंसेस, उनकी स्टेटमेंट्स एविडेंस की तरह यूज कर सकते हैं, notwithstanding the fact कि वो कोर्ट में अपने आप को प्रेजेंट नहीं कर पा रहे हैं। So let's see section 32, and first, as I told you, statement, what is the heading of this part of the Evidence Act? Statements by persons who cannot be called as witnesses. Now, statements, verbal or written, of relevant facts made by a person A, who's dead, B, who cannot be found, C, who has become incapable of giving evidence, D, whose attendance cannot be procured without an amount of delay, or E, whose attendance cannot be procured without an amount of expense, which under the circumstances of the case appears to the court to be unreasonable, are themselves without being cross-examined, without being produced in the court, without the witness being produced in the court, are themselves. So themselves का मतलब क्या हो गया? By themselves, as it is, without the witness being produced in the court. They are relevant facts in the following cases only. So only मैं अपनी तरफ से यूज कर रहा हूं. So एक बार हम दोबारा देखते हैं कि कौन कौन से लोग हैं जिनके ना आने पर we can now take their statements as evidences. मैंने जैसा कि कहा, it is against the general rule. जनरल रूल क्या है? No evidence should be taken without the witness being present in the court. Natural justice demands that witness should be present before his evidence is taken, before his statement is taken as evidence. ये जनरल रूल है. यहां पे necessity demands, the best evidence rule demands that where evidence of such persons is material, where evidence of such persons is necessary, in such cases, their statements, even if they were verbal, written or verbal, question prelims का है, can verbal statements of persons who are dead or who cannot be produced, can they be also received as evidence? The answer is yes. So statements, whether written or verbal, can be made admissible. Of whom? A, if the witness is dead. B, of a person who is dead. It is not necessary to witness or anybody who is dead or who has become incapable of giving evidence, or who cannot be found, or whose presence cannot be procured without reasonable expense or delay in the eyes of the court. Then only these statements can become admissible. I hope everybody is clear about this very, very important point. So whenever the question comes on 32 or 33, you have to start with the jurisprudence. The why. The why is the doctrine of necessity, the best evidence rule, where the evidence of such a person who cannot be found, who is dead, who is incapable of giving evidence, or whose presence cannot be procured without reasonable expense or delay is material. Then, as per the best evidence rule, his evidence is a must. But the person is dead. Natural justice demands that the person should be present in the court before his statement is used as evidence. But then we have to weigh. On one hand, we have the best evidence rule, and on the other hand, we have the principle of natural justice. In normal conditions, natural justice always outweighs anything else. But here, natural justice also demands that all evidences must be put forth which are extremely important for a matter to be decided. And it is not that it is absolutely against natural justice. No doubt, Section 32 demands that we are, in the interest of best evidence rule, taking the statements of those persons who are dead, cannot be found, have become incapable, or whose presence cannot be procured without reasonable expense or delay, to be made admissible, because even that is in the interest of justice. Best evidence rule is also a part of natural justice. And to make matters little more easy, we also have Section 158. 158 क्या कहता है एविडेंस एक्ट का? कि जो 32 और 33 के स्टेटमेंट्स हैं उनको कॉन्ट्राडिक्ट भी किया जा सकता है और करॉबरेट भी किया जा सकता है। तो जहां मैंने एक डाइंग डिक्लेरेशन दे दिया कि मेरे हस्बैंड ने मुझे मारा है और हस्बैंड ने प्रूव कर दिया कि उस औरत ने, मेरी वाइफ ने सुसाइड किया है। क्यों किया है? शी हैड एन अफेयर एंड बिकॉज शी कुड नॉट गेट मैरिड टू हर पैरामोर, वो दुखी थी, इस वजह से सुसाइड किया है, वो एविडेंसेस से प्रूव कर देता है। ही कैन कॉन्ट्रडिक्ट अ डाइंग डिक्लेरेशन। सो प्लीज रिमेंबर 32 or 33 do not give an unbridled right to the party. It does not thirst a statement made by a dead person, etc., as gospel truth. The statements made under 32 or 33 are not conclusive. They are subject to contradiction and they can also be corroborated. Section 158 clarifies this aspect. इसलिए प्लीज याद रखना है, all statements of 32 and 33 can be contradicted by other evidences. Not only contradicted, they can also be corroborated. So जहां मैंने एक डाइंग डिक्लेरेशन दी कि मेरे हस्बैंड ने मुझे जला के मारा है और लड़की के फादर ने चिट्ठियां प्रोड्यूस कर दी और एविडेंस ले आया कि हाँ उसको बहुत तंग करते थे, that can corroborate the dying declaration also. So 32 के statements are statements like evidences, and like any other evidence they are subject to contradictions and also subject to corroborations. I hope everybody is clear on the first paragraph. It is not that the statements under 32 are applicable to all matters. It is not that section 32 applies to each and every aspect. The circumstances, the cases in which the statement of a person who is dead, cannot be found, has become incapable, etc., can be made admissible only in the 8 cases given in section 32. We'll take up the first case being a dying declaration. Let's go to section 32, clause 1. It is one of the most important matters which have to be dealt with here. Dying declaration एक ऐसा टॉपिक है जिस पे बहुत बार क्वेश्चन आते हैं. I'll try to cover each and every aspect of a dying declaration because this is one subject, one matter which comes in all the 3 forums of our examination again and again. First, let us read the bare language and then we'll go on to discuss the nitty-gritties of this section. Clause 1. Are themselves relevant facts in the following cases. 1. When it relates to cause of death. When the statement is made by a person as to the cause of his death, not the death of another. Now please remember, I cannot give evidence regarding the death of another person. I have to give you the cause of death of my death, not of another. I have a judgment on this. Here I have. This is Please write down. As early as 1948, Allahabad High Court, Emperor versus Kumar Pal Singh. ये सारे क्वेश्चंस प्रीलिम्स, मेंस और इंटरव्यू के ज्यादा हैं. Can a statement by a person, which is a dying declaration, regarding the cause of death of another person be received in clause 1? Emperor versus Kumar Pal Singh, 1948, Allahabad. Please write down. A statement made by a person who's dead as to the cause of death of another person is inadmissible in evidence under section 32 clause 1. The statement of one dead person is not a relevant fact with respect to the question about the death of another person. Coming back, it says, when the statement is made by a person as to the cause of his own death, read with Allahabad High Court judgment, as to the immediate cause of his death, or where the death is a result of a long transaction, like cruelty. It is not that the first act of cruelty the woman is going to commit suicide. It may be a long drawn affair. It may be an affair which stretches to maybe years and years. So earlier it may be one cause of death. A has shot me. मैं मर रहा हूं, मुझे A ने गोली मारी है. Cause of death. या पूरे circumstances which are culminating now in the death. That means where the cause of my death is spread over a long period of time, then all the circumstances which now culminate in my death. This is the second point. So it says, when the statement is made by a person as to the cause of his own death, or as to any of the circumstances of the transaction which resulted in his death. A ने B को मारा, A ने कहा, B ने कहा मरते वक्त A ने मुझे गोली मारी है, as to the cause of his death. यहाँ अगर लंबी चौड़ी क्रूअल्टी का मामला था तो circumstances जो पूरे मेरे साथ 6 साल से क्रूअल्टी हो रही थी उसकी वजह से मैं आज सुसाइड कर रही हूँ, both are covered. So immediate cause of death or a prolonged cause of death, circumstances which ultimately become a chain of circumstances which ultimately lead to the death of the person who's giving the statement. So when the statement is made by a person as to the cause of his own death or as to any of the circumstances of the transaction, the word is transaction, which resulted in his death. In cases in which the cause of that person's death comes into question, the matter must relate to the cause of death of the person who's dead. तो जहां पे भी ये मुद्दा आएगा कि ये आदमी की मौत इस वजह से हुई, चाहे वो रेलेवेंट फैक्ट की तरह आए या वो फैक्ट इन इशू की तरह से आए, कहीं भी आए, तो इन सिंपल वर्ड्स हाउ डज दिस क्लॉज रीड? जब भी कोई मुद्दा आएगा रिगार्डिंग द इमीडिएट कॉज ऑफ द डेथ और the transaction in which the circumstances were such that it led to his death are somewhere relevant or even fact in issue, then the statement which was made is verbal or written is admissible even though the person is dead. Such statements are relevant whether the person who made them was or was not at the time when they were made under expectation of death, and whatever may be the nature of the proceeding in which the cause of death comes into question. सेकंड पैरा का मतलब क्या है? सेकंड पैरा को समझने के लिए हमें डाइंग डिक्लेरेशन के इथोस पे जाना पड़ेगा। ये जो स्टेटमेंट कोई भी आदमी दे रहा है रिगार्डिंग द इमीडिएट कॉज ऑफ हिज डेथ और द सर्कमस्टांसेस व्हिच फॉर्म्ड अ चेन व्हिच लेड टू हिज डेथ, whenever such a statement becomes relevant as a relevant fact or a fact in issue, such a statement is called a dying declaration. A dying declaration is based on a very important presumption of human conduct. There is a basic human presumption of human conduct that no person will die with a lie on his lips. No person will meet his maker with a lie on his lips. कोई भी मरता हुआ आदमी झूठ नहीं बोलेगा, क्योंकि वो ऊपर भगवान को जाके क्या मुंह दिखाएगा, क्योंकि वो मर रहा है, इसलिए he has no axe to grind, वो सच्चाई बोलेगा। ये इतना बड़ा प्रिजम्पशन है कि मरता हुआ आदमी झूठ नहीं बोलता है। दिस इज सच अ बिग प्रिजम्पशन that it elevates a dying declaration to the level of a substantive evidence. Naturally, अगर मैं कह रहा हूं कि मेरा डाइंग डिक्लेरेशन की सैंक्टिटी इसलिए है क्योंकि मुझे लग रहा है कि मैं मरने वाला हूं, और अगर मैं मरने वाला हूं तो मैं सच ही बोलूंगा। पर अगर मुझे ये नहीं लग रहा है कि मैं मरने वाला हूं, इंग्लिश लॉ कहता है तो फिर डाइंग डिक्लेरेशन की सैंक्टिटी नहीं है, क्योंकि अगर उसको पता है मैं जिंदा रह जाऊंगा तो वो झूठ बोल सकता है, वो किसी को फंसा सकता है। इसीलिए इंग्लिश लॉ और इंडियन लॉ में ये सबसे बड़ा फर्क आ गया। इंग्लिश लॉ में अगर जो मर रहा है विक्टिम, उसको मालूम है कि वो मरेगा नहीं, और देयर इज नो व्हाट वी कॉल एक्सपेक्टेंसी ऑफ डेथ, then his statement cannot be elevated to the level of a dying declaration. Or even if it is a dying declaration, it cannot be given the exalted status of a substantive evidence. It is a mere statement. Indian law has no such inhibitions. Indian law on dying declaration is not based on this basic aspect of English law, that a dying declaration can be given the exalted status of a substantive piece of evidence only if the person is under expectancy of death. एक इंसान जो एक्सपेक्ट कर रहा है कि मैं मरने वाला हूं वो सच बोलेगा, बाकी झूठ बोल सकते हैं, ये चीज इंग्लिश लॉ मानता है, इंडियन लॉ नहीं मानता। एंड दैट इज व्हाट पैरा 2 says. पैरा 2 says ये इमैटेरियल है कि डाइंग डिक्लेरेशन देते वक्त वो अंडर एक्सपेक्टेंसी ऑफ डेथ था या नहीं था। So that is what it says. Let's go back. It says, para 2, such statements are relevant whether the person who made them was or was not at the time when they were made under expectation of death. This is a major difference between Indian law and English law. And whatever may be the nature of the proceeding, whether it is civil or criminal, doesn't matter. It will have no bearing. So whatever be the nature of the proceeding, whether it is civil or criminal, in which the cause of death comes into question. तो चाहे वो सिविल मामला हो, चाहे वो क्रिमिनल मामला हो, दोनों में it makes absolutely no difference whether there was an expectancy of death or there was no expectancy of death. ये थी बेयर रीडिंग, क्योंकि जैसा कि मैंने बोला 20-20 नंबर के क्वेश्चन आते हैं, बहुत बार इंटरव्यू में पूछा गया, एडीजे के इंटरव्यू में भी पूछा गया और लोअर जुडिशरी में भी बहुत बार पूछा गया। इसका पहले हम इलस्ट्रेशन पढ़ते हैं। इलस्ट्रेशन ए डील्स विद क्लॉज 1। द क्वेश्चन इज वेदर ए वाज मर्डर्ड बाय बी और A dies of injuries received in a transaction in the course of which she was ravished. Ravished means raped. The question is whether she was ravished by B, or the question is whether A was killed by B under such circumstances that a suit would lie against B by A's widow. हिंदू लॉ में, मुस्लिम लॉ में अगर किसी ने मर्डर कर दिया एज एन एयर, तो फिर वो प्रॉपर्टी उसको बिकवीत नहीं होती है, उसको प्रॉपर्टी नहीं मिलती है। सिविल सूट है, तो चाहे वो सिविल सूट है जहां इसकी विडो, ए की विडो डाल रही है, इसने मर्डर किया है तो इसको प्रॉपर्टी से वंचित कर दिया जाए, चाहे क्रिमिनल केस है। स्टेटमेंट्स मेड बाय ए एज टू द कॉज ऑफ हिज और हर डेथ, रेफरिंग रिस्पेक्टिवली टू द मर्डर एंड द रेप एंड द एक्शनेबल रॉन्ग अंडर कंसिडरेशन आर रेलेवेंट फैक्ट्स। चाहे वो सिविल लॉ हो, चाहे वो क्रिमिनल लॉ हो, चाहे वो सर्कमस्टांसेस हो, चाहे वो इमीडिएट कॉज हो, वो सारे रेलेवेंट हैं अगर द कॉज ऑफ डेथ ऑफ दैट पर्सन इज इन क्वेश्चन, वेदर एज अ रेलेवेंट फैक्ट और वेदर एज अ फैक्ट इन इशू। I hope everybody is now clear about the Bayer Act. Now, once we are clear with this, how are we going to divide this whole topic? This whole topic I am going to divide in 4 large headings. First, I am going to discuss the principles governing dying declarations. Second heading, I am going to give the form of a dying declaration. Third will be the content. Fourth will be the probative value, the evidentiary value of a dying declaration. और पांचवा मैं हेडिंग दूंगा फिटनेस ऑफ द डेक्लरेंट, मरने वाले का फिटनेस का इशू। ये मोटा मोटा हम 5 बड़े हेडिंग्स में हम ये पूरा टॉपिक डिस्कस करेंगे। सबसे पहले हम शुरू करते हैं प्रिंसिपल्स। ये जो मैंने 5 हेडिंग्स बताए हैं, ये 5 हेडिंग्स ही कई बार अलग अलग 10-10 नंबर के क्वेश्चंस आ जाते हैं, बट वी आर गोइंग टू मेक वेरी कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव नोट्स ऑन दीज। I know this question is definitely expected many times, and I am very sure that my students will do very well. So first I go to the principles. I would like to quickly dictate and explain side by side because it's a longer thing. So we will start with the principles. Okay. As far as principles are concerned, now all the principles, whenever suppose the principles का question आ जाए, so we have to say that you have to first discuss the Bayer language in just 2 or 3 lines, and then go on to say that the principles governing a dying declaration have been culled out of the various judgments which the Honorable Supreme Court has passed. We have a very rich history of precedents of not less than the Honorable Supreme Court, the Apex Court, which we can now cull out and frame as the principles of dying declaration. Let's start writing. Let's sum them up. पहला, I'll give you हर principle के साथ उसके corresponding judgments भी दूंगा. पहला, there is neither a rule of law nor of prudence that dying declaration cannot be acted upon without corroboration. There is neither rule of law nor of prudence that dying declaration cannot be acted upon without corroboration. इसके ऊपर जजमेंट्स लिख लो. मुन्नू राजा वर्सेस स्टेट ऑफ मध्य प्रदेश. मुन्नू राजा वर्सेस स्टेट ऑफ मध्य प्रदेश 1976 सुप्रीम कोर्ट. शबीर मोहम्मद वर्सेस स्टेट ऑफ महाराष्ट्र 1997 सुप्रीम कोर्ट. रवि वर्सेस स्टेट ऑफ तमिलनाडु 2004 सुप्रीम कोर्ट. और भी बहुत सारे. क्या मतलब है इसका पहले समझ लेते हैं. नॉर्मली मैंने आपको पढ़ा है कि दो तरह के रूल्स होते हैं. एविडेंस एक्ट में दो तरह के रूल होते हैं. एक होता है रूल ऑफ लॉ. रूल ऑफ लॉ पत्थर की लकीर होती है. रूल ऑफ लॉ मींस कि लॉ ने कहा है, जैसे कि शैल प्रिज्यूम है, वो रूल ऑफ लॉ है कि आपको प्रिज्यूम करना ही पड़ेगा. तो रूल ऑफ लॉ वो रूल जो लॉ ने ले डाउन किया है. सो वेरेवर वी हैव अ रूल ऑफ लॉ दैट हैज टू बी फॉलोड, देयर इज नो जुडिशियल डिस्क्रिशन नॉट टू फॉलो. दूसरा है रूल ऑफ प्रूडेंस. रूल ऑफ प्रूडेंस कहता है कि ये अकल की बात है, कॉमन सेंस की बात है. सो रूल ऑफ प्रूडेंस में हम प्रूडेंस, सजासिटी, कॉमन सेंस अप्लाई करते हैं इन द इंटरेस्ट ऑफ जस्टिस, कि क्या इस एविडेंस को हम सीधा ले सकते हैं कि इसको corroborate करना पड़ेगा. दैट इज व्हाई आई टोल्ड यू व्हेन वी वर डिस्कसिंग सेक्शन 133, मैंने आपको कहा था कि रूल ऑफ corroboration इज नॉट अ रूल ऑफ लॉ, इट्स अ रूल ऑफ प्रूडेंस. कहीं लॉ में नहीं लिखा कि corroborate करना जरूरी है. इनफैक्ट उल्टा लिखा है, इवन इफ अनकॉरोबोरेटेड, सेक्शन 133 में था. अब क्वेश्चन ये उठता है कि डाइंग डिक्लेरेशन को corroborate करना जरूरी है. क्या ये रूल ऑफ लॉ है या इवन रूल ऑफ प्रूडेंस भी है कि corroborate करना जरूरी है? सुप्रीम कोर्ट हैज गिवन सो मेनी जजमेंट्स ऑन दिस कि डाइंग डिक्लेरेशन इतने बड़े प्रिजम्पशन पे बेस्ड है. अ डाइंग डिक्लेरेशन carries so much of sanctity. A dying declaration can be acted upon on itself. A dying declaration is a substantive piece of evidence. It is so substantive, though it is not conclusive, because then that is why we have 158. It is so substantive that I do not, if it evokes reliability, if it appears to be unimpeachable, if the dying declaration evokes confidence in the court, which is beyond any doubt, then a dying declaration itself can form the basis of a conviction. Is corroboration a rule of prudence here? No. So please remember, a dying declaration carries so much of sanctity that a person who's dying will not meet his maker with a lie on his lips. It is exalted to such a high level that it is neither a rule of law nor of prudence that without corroboration a dying declaration cannot be accepted as evidence. I hope everybody is clear on this. Second point. If the court is satisfied that the dying declaration is true and voluntary, it can base conviction on it even without corroboration. Point number 2, अगर court satisfied है that the dying declaration is true, the dying declaration is voluntary, the dying declaration is unimpeachable. In such cases, a court can base a conviction merely on a dying declaration. There would be no need to corroborate it. This matter came up. This was held by State of Uttar Pradesh versus Ram Sagar Yadav. State of Uttar Pradesh versus Ram Sagar Yadav, 1985 Supreme Court. Bhola versus State of Bihar, 1998 Supreme Court. And there are again plenty of judgments. एक दो काफी हैं. Third principle. The court has to scrutinize the dying declaration carefully. The court must ensure that there was no tutoring, that the dying declaration is not a figment of imagination, that the dying declaration was not prompted by somebody. That the dying declaration was made with a clean mind. There was no axe to grind. There is no embellishment. A dying declaration should be pure. If there are some vested interests who want to tutor the person who is dying in order to use a dying person as a handle to take revenge from somebody else, or to falsely implicate somebody else, in such cases, the court has the onerous task of separating the grain from the chaff. On this, we have Ramachandra versus Public Prosecutor, 1976 Supreme Court. State of Uttar Pradesh versus Ram Sevak, 2003 Supreme Court. Fourth point, where the dying declaration is suspicious, wherever the contradictions which have been put up make the dying declaration dubious, where everything does not seem hunky-dory, where a doubt creeps in the mind of the court, then the rule of prudence also makes its entry. Then rule of prudence must be followed. The court must then ask for corroborating evidences. Then corroboration of a dying declaration becomes imperative. This matter came up. Rashid Beg versus State of Madhya Pradesh, 1974 Supreme Court. Next, unconscious people don't give dying declarations. So where the person who died was unconscious, no evidence can be given of such a matter. So where the person was throughout unconscious, no evidence can be given. There is no declaration, so there is no dying declaration. And now anything which is given as a conjecture or surmise should not make its entry under Section 32. The word statement is something which is stated, orally or in written, that's different, but it must be stated. Section 32 deals with statements. Hence, if it is not stated, if there is nothing stated, the person is unconscious, there is no entry in Section 32. This thing came up in Ram Manorath versus State of Uttar Pradesh, 1981 Supreme Court. Next, A dying declaration is not supposed to be a gossip. It is not a drawing room gossip. You don't expect a dying person to give all the details. A person who's dying is evidently in mental and physical pain. His frame of mind is not that of an ordinary person. So in case a dying declaration does not contain all the exact point-to-point, minute-to-minute details, it does not suffer from any infirmity. A dying declaration is supposed to be a rough analysis of the situation or the incident. It is not supposed to be a minute-to-minute account of the entire incident. This matter came again before the Supreme Court, that merely because a dying declaration does not contain absolute details of the occurrence, it is not to be rejected on this ground only. State of Maharashtra versus K.L. Naidu. State of Maharashtra versus K.L. Naidu, 1981, Supreme Court. Next. इसी से जुड़ा हुआ एक पॉइंट है. Dying declarations are not supposed to be pages and pages essays. They are not supposed to be, as I said, drawing room discussions. Dying declarations, as I said, are normally under pain. The mere fact that the dying declaration was short, crisp, to the point, is no reason to discard it. In fact, it's the opposite. Where a person is giving 10-20 pages of a dying declaration, there are chances that he is now adding or subtracting something out of it. Crisp, to the point dying declarations, as Honorable Supreme Court has held, raise a presumption of genuinity. You don't expect a person who's dying dictating a complete book on the incident. You don't expect a person who's dying giving a detailed analysis like a journalist. In fact, a dying declaration, as per human conduct presumptions, should be short, crisp, and to the point. So we can write, merely because the dying declaration happens to be a brief statement, it is not to be discarded. In fact, conciseness of a statement guarantees its truth. This was held by the Honorable Supreme Court. Suraj Dev versus State of Bihar. Suraj Dev versus State of Bihar, 1979, Supreme Court. Now, the next point. A very important aspect of a dying declaration is whether the declarant was in a fit condition of mind. We'll be dealing about the fitness of the mind as a complete topic later on. For this purpose, जो अभी हम principle लिख रहे हैं, it is the court's duty to ascertain that the person who's the declarant was in a fit state of mind. If eyewitnesses have given their evidence that the person was fit to give a coherent and a reliable statement, it will prevail even over medical opinion. So जहां मेडिकल ओपिनियन डॉक्टर कहता है नहीं जी नहीं वो तो बेहोशी की हालत थी, वो तो इनकोहेरेंट थी, बट जहां आई विटनेसेस 4 थे उन्होंने कहा नहीं सर वो बिल्कुल ठीक ठाक थी और वो बिल्कुल होशोहवास में बात कर रही थी, बिल्कुल क्लियरली बोल रही थी और मुझे भी एड्रेस करके कहा मैं ठीक कह रही हूं ना, तो बिल्कुल ठीक थी. नाउ ocular evidence will prevail over medical opinion in such matters. This again came up before the Honorable Supreme Court. This came up in Nannu Ram. Nannu Ram versus State of Madhya Pradesh, 1988, Supreme Court. And lastly, wherever two versions come up, one version is given in a dying declaration and prosecution has brought up another version. Prosecution is based on documentary evidences, eyewitnesses account, so many. But the dying declaration does not match. What will prevail then? In such cases, the prosecution version will prevail over a dying declaration. So please remember, where the prosecution version is very acceptable, it looks reliable, but it differs from the dying declaration, then dying declaration can be discarded. This matter came up that where the prosecution version is different from the version given in a dying declaration, then the dying declaration may be discarded. This matter came up in State of Uttar Pradesh versus Madan Mohan, 1989, Supreme Court. You know, we have a case, जो मैंने अभी last point बताया उसके ऊपर I would like to discuss a case. There was a woman, a wife, who was ostensibly burnt to death by her husband, and she said that she was all praise for her husband. ये मैं केस बताता हूँ, ये है स्टेट ऑफ महाराष्ट्र वर्सेस वसंत शंकर. स्टेट ऑफ महाराष्ट्र वर्सेस वसंत शंकर, 1993 बॉम्बे हाई कोर्ट का केस है ये. इसमें क्या हुआ, डाइंग डिक्लेरेशन, उसने कहा नहीं जी मेरे पति बड़े प्यार करते हैं, बड़ा देवता आदमी है, और प्रोसिक्यूशन की सारी थ्योरी प्रूव कर रही थी कि आदमी पहले दिन से उस पर क्रूअल्टी करता था. नाउ द क्वेश्चन केम अप कि डाइंग डिक्लेरेशन कह रहा है कि जी मेरा पति तो परमेश्वर है, मेरे पति जैसा तो कोई हो नहीं सकता है. शी वाज ऑल प्रेज एंड डाइड व्हाइल प्रेजिंग. और प्रोसिक्यूशन का पूरा वर्जन उल्टा था. उसके फादर का एविडेंस, उसकी मदर का एविडेंस, उसके नेबर्स का एविडेंस, चिट्ठियां, हॉस्पिटल के रिकॉर्ड्स, सारा कुछ खिलाफ था. नाउ दिस लास्ट पॉइंट जो मैंने आपको लिखवाया, दिस केम इनटू एक्शन. बॉम्बे हाई कोर्ट हेल्ड, ये टिपिकल भारतीय नारी है जो अपने पति के खिलाफ मरते हुए भी नहीं बोल सकती. वैसे ऐसी होती तो नहीं है विमेन, आई डोंट नो, होंगी, मैंने नहीं देखा अपने कैरियर में. ओके, नाउ it was held that now the DD, the dying declaration, can be discarded, because now that looks to be an unnatural dying declaration. So please remember, where the prosecution version is very reliable and it is proved by so many good evidences, then, and if it is going totally against the dying declaration, well, the dying declaration loses all its value at that time. I hope now everybody is clear about the first point, which was the principles which govern a dying declaration. अब हम आते हैं दूसरे point पे. The second point which I will take up is what is the probative value. ये एक पहला जो अभी हमने डिस्कस किया complete question है 15 मार्क्स का जो हम कर चुके हैं. दूसरा है probative value, evidentiary value of a dying declaration. ये बहुत बार question आया हुआ है. Let's see this question. प्रोबेटिव वैल्यू की जब मैं बात करता हूं, उसके प्रिंसिपल्स हम बात करते हैं, कौन से प्रोबेटिव वैल्यू के क्या क्या पॉइंट्स. एज आई टोल्ड यू दैट अ डाइंग डिक्लेरेशन इज बेस्ड ऑन a very important presumption of human conduct. There are दो ऐसे मामले हैं एविडेंस एक्ट में जो ह्यूमन कॉन्डक्ट के प्रिजम्पशंस के ऊपर बेस्ड है, और इतने तगड़े प्रिजम्पशंस हैं कि वो दोनों चीजों को एक्सॉल्ट कर देते हैं टू द लेवल ऑफ सब्सटैंटिव पीसेस ऑफ एविडेंस. एक था एडमिशंस एंड कन्फेशंस और एक है डाइंग डिक्लेरेशन. Let's quickly write down these aspects also. The probative value. पहला point. A probative value of a dying declaration is so high that if it is found to be reliable, voluntary, it can form the sole basis of a conviction, even if uncorroborated. मैंने लिखवा चुका हूं. इसमें नारायण सिंह वर्सेस स्टेट ऑफ हरियाणा 2004 सुप्रीम कोर्ट. पहला पॉइंट. सो प्लीज रिमेंबर, एविडेंशियरी वैल्यू क्या है एक डाइंग डिक्लेरेशन की? सोली, अकेला वो एक जजमेंट दिलवा सकता है. दैट इज व्हाई इट्स अ सब्सटैंटिव एविडेंस. So a dying declaration is based on such an important presumption of human conduct that it can by itself form the basis of a conviction. पहला point. दूसरा, a dying declaration, however, is not conclusive. A dying declaration must be weighed. All the circumstances in which it was made must be ascertained by the court. The court has an onerous task in such matters to see the circumstances in which a dying declaration was made. Do they ensure the voluntariness and truthfulness of a dying declaration? ये इसका second part है. On this, I have Tarachand versus State of Maharashtra, 1962, Supreme Court. एक झूठा केस आया था, पंजाब का मामला सुप्रीम कोर्ट के सामने आया था, जग्गा सिंह वर्सेस स्टेट ऑफ पंजाब. इस केस में क्या हुआ, डिसीज ने, जो मर गई लड़की, उसने अपने डाइंग डिक्लेरेशन में कहा कि उसको रेप की कोशिश की गई. एक्यूज ने उससे रेप की कोशिश की और बाद में उसको आग लगा दी. ये मामला कहीं प्रूव नहीं हो रहा था, ना विटनेसेस से प्रूव हो रहा था, ना ही ये किसी डॉक्टर ने साइन किया था जो वहां प्रेजेंट था जब ये रिकॉर्डिंग हो रही थी. एविडेंसेस थे कि इनकी दुश्मनी थी दोनों खानदानों की. और एविडेंसेस ये भी थे कि लड़की ने अपने आप को आग लगाई. दिस डाइंग डिक्लेरेशन वाज फाउंड टू बी नाउ अ विंडिक्टिव डाइंग डिक्लेरेशन. पंजाब में ऐसे बहुत होता है, हरियाणा में भी. मैंने जब, अब तो आई डोंट नो होता है कि नहीं, जब मैं पुलिस में था तो मैं सुनता था खानदानों की लड़ाई होती थी. लड़कियों की शादी कर देते थे दूसरों के खानदान में कि बेटी हमारा बदला तुम्हें लेना है. वो भी कहती थी बाबूजी डोंट वरी, मैं उसको मार के दम लूंगी, अपने हस्बैंड को मार दूंगी. तो ऐसे जहां होते हैं, और ये पंजाब का ही मामला है, तो इसमें द डाइंग डिक्लेरेशन वाज टोटली रिजेक्टेड कि नहीं नहीं ये तो विंडिक्टिव टाइप की है. नेक्स्ट पॉइंट. It is not a general proposition कि डाइंग डिक्लेरेशन बाकी एविडेंसेस से ज्यादा वीक है. कोई जनरल प्रोपोजिशन नहीं डाली जा सकती कि बाकी एविडेंसेस के लेवल से नीचे है कोई भी डाइंग डिक्लेरेशन. नेक्स्ट पॉइंट. अभी ये सब्सटैंटिव एविडेंस है, हम मान चुके हैं, बट जब एविडेंस ले रहे हैं और ये चीज बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट, ध्यान रखना। एविडेंस प्रूव होने के बाद सब्सटैंटिव होती है। जजमेंट ऑफ एन एविडेंस, वेइंग ऑफ एन एविडेंस, एक डाइंग डिक्लेरेशन को, एक ऑर्डिनरी एविडेंस को जैसे वे किया जाता है, जज किया जाता है, उसी पलड़े में किया जाएगा। सो एज फार एज जजिंग अ डाइंग डिक्लेरेशन इज कंसर्न्ड, it has to be evaluated on the same standards as any other evidence would be evaluated. Once proved to be voluntary, then it becomes substantive. We don't go with any presumptions that all dying declarations must be true and conclusive. It is the court's onerous task to first ensure the reliability, the merits of each and every dying declaration must first be evaluated in the common crucible in which all other evidences are evaluated. While evaluating a dying declaration, there must be no rose-tinted glasses. A court must be absolutely presumptionless. A court must consider an evidence which is a dying declaration on the same footing as he would evaluate any other evidence. Once it is proved that yes, this is the reliable voluntary evidence, then all the things come up, then all the principles जो हमने डिस्कस किए तब आएंगे। स्टेप नंबर 1 जो है इवैल्यूएशन, सच्चाई, वॉलंटरीनेस, वाई, वो टेस्ट तो पास करने पड़ेंगे। Merely because it's a dying declaration, it does not become sanctitious. It becomes sanctitious only if it passes the test of voluntariness, truthfulness, and reliability. Once it passes these tests, then it gets all the respect which is given by law. Next point. A dying declaration recorded by a magistrate in a proper manner has a higher evidentiary value than a dying declaration which is made otherwise. I'll be taking up this topic in my next point, dying declaration by a magistrate. So we'll take that, or we'll just keep this at the back of your mind, that evidentiary value of a magistrate taking a dying declaration is always higher. Next point. While determining the reliability of a dying declaration, before taking it as substantive evidence which is sufficient by itself for the court to take a decision, the court has to determine all the circumstances in which a dying declaration was taken. Whether the person making the dying declaration has any ulterior motive, what was the need for a dying declaration, to whom was it given, was there sufficient light in case it's a case of murder, light थी भी, उसने देखा murderer को, is he under delusions, मरता हुआ आदमी कई बार delusions में होता है, is his mental makeup absolutely fit, is he under delirium, is he under fear of death, such a high fear of death that he has gone into, he's only blabbering. So many aspects have to be taken. A dying declaration must be clear, lucid. There must be no blabberings which are meaningless. All these aspects have to be taken before a dying declaration can be taken as a substantive evidence. So I hope you have understood all the aspects of the probative value of a dying declaration. We run out of time. We'll take up the next part in my next lecture. Thank you. God bless.